Okay, so if we successfully finish the build-a-thon, we should have something that looks like this with the Fox3 transceiver and the K16 Keyer board. So I've connected up my K16 Keyer, starting with the blue and black lead, which plugs into J1 on the Keyer board, and this solders to, the blue lead solders to the pin at the top of R15, and the black lead solders to the pin marked R14 at the edge of the transceiver board. Secondly, I've plugged in the key socket, so that's the 3.5mm stereo socket that we're going to plug a key into, a paddle into, and that plugs into here at J2 on the Keyer board. The yellow push button with the big plug on it plugs into J5 at the bottom of the Keyer board. I've plugged in the power lead to J4, and this also loops over and plugs into to power the transceiver as well. And finally, there's a Keyer connection which connects from connection 3 marked key on the Fox3 over here to J3 on the Keyer board. So let's take a closer look and then try and get the Keyer set up. When I first plugged in a paddle, I noticed that by default my paddle was reversed. Typically the thumb, the left hand key, should be making dots, and the right hand key, the fingers, should be making dashes, and mine was the wrong way round. Now you can change this in the Keyer menu, but it's far easier to simply swap it around so that you don't have to make that change every single time. So I simply swapped the red and the blue leads on the 3.5mm socket and resoldered them. So here we are with everything set up to use the Keyer. I've plugged the transceiver into a dummy load because as soon as we use the key, it's going to transmit. And if we just give the key a touch, we can hear the transceiver kick in, and you can also hear that it's very fast, approximately 35 words a minute I think, and a little high-pitched for me. By default, I think it starts off at about 800 Hertz, and I prefer something a bit lower, about 600. So the first two things we're going to do is to use the menu on the Keyer to change the pitch of the side tone, and then we're going to drop the speed of the Keyer. So let's start with the pitch. So to enter a command, we're going to press the yellow button for approximately 1 second, and then you'll hear the R character sent to you saying it's ready to take an input. I'll just do that. So we press for 1 second. Try that again. There we go. And now it's ready to take an input. If I don't input anything, it gives you a little question mark saying what do you want to do, and then just drops you back to normal sending. So this time I'm going to press the button, we're going to hear the R, and then I'm going to enter the command Z because I want to change the pitch, and then it's going to allow me to change the pitch using the paddles to go up or down in frequency. So let's do this. Press and hold. There's the R. I add my Z, and now I can drop the frequency, or raise the frequency indeed, pressing the other paddle, but I can drop the frequency down to about 600 Hertz, which is my preference. And then I press the yellow button just briefly, and there you go, I've set the pitch. You'll notice that when I go into the menu, the CW is actually much slower, and that's because the menu system defaults to a much lower speed, which is a good thing. So if you want to change the speed, there is a menu setting S which allows you to set a preferred speed, but it doesn't seem to control the overall speed correctly. Now you can add a potentiometer to the Keyer to be able to manually adjust the speed, but we haven't done that. However, there are menu commands that allow you to then set the upper and lower speed when you do have a potentiometer attached, and that's what we're going to do to set a ceiling to actually set the speed. So this is part of the extended menu, so what I'm going to end up doing is pressing the button for a second. I'll hear R to enter the menu setting. I'm going to have to enter an X because I want the extended menu, and the Keyer will respond with an E to confirm that it's accepted that command that's been entered. I'm then going to use the command R to say that I want to set the upper and lower speeds of as if you had a potentiometer connected, even though we don't. So I'm going to enter R, you'll hear a dot for an E to say that's accepted, and then it's waiting for me to enter two values. Now it doesn't matter what I enter as a lower value because we're not going to operate at that speed. It's the upper value that it's actually going to operate at. So I'm going to enter two values. I'll enter 10 and 18, and hopefully that will then give us a keyer at 18 words a minute. And you'll hear an R at the end to say it's accepted. So let's do that. I'm going to hold and press the key, the yellow button for a second to get the R.
Okay.
There we go. So that's my X and E, the R and E, and then that's 10. And there's the R at the end. So now when I start sending, it should be at about 18 words a minute. There we go. And that's how we set up the side tone and the speed of the keyer.